What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again. And this time we are here with Jeremy Spencer of Psychosexual. Thank you so much for your time today, man. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, anytime. So I really enjoyed the latest single that you released, "Devil from Hell." This is really a great sound. It has like a throwback, like "Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste," Psalm 69 industrial sound with a lot of like modern flair to it. Is this like maybe a good representation of what maybe like a full length psychosexual album will sound like, or is that just the tip of the iceberg, as I like to say?
I think it's just the more appropriate introductory song. It just kind of is like a stomper, gets you riled up. It's a good album opener, but there's not 10 of those on the record. It's pretty much all over the place. There are some even heavier songs in that, but I wouldn't say that the record sounds like that. It's just that's one piece of the pie as far as the record goes. It's kind of eclectic and all over the map.
Was there maybe kind of like a preconceived idea of like how you wanted psychosexual to sound like, or was there like a lot of experimentation and a lot of like trial and error involved?
Yeah, a lot of experimentation. I don't even know if it's trial and error. You just kind of record what you're feeling at the time. And some of the early stuff that I did was more synth based, even like new wave, kind of Gary Newman, 80s kind of stuff. And I was like, well, I kind of miss heavy rock and dark rock and heavier things like that. So I wanted to put a band together, and that's kind of what it's turned into now. It's just a heavier, darker rock band. Definitely theatrical, kind of. You paint the scenario any way you want. The fantasies are unlimited because it's all character based and it's theater. So it opens up a lot of possibilities and a lot of fun, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna get into the image of it in a second, but like with this sound that you're incorporating in here, again, I thought it was like a throwback Skinny Puppy. Even like I'm seeing reminiscence of Throbbing Gristle in there. Like that's how like industrial I see it as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, but that's maybe my interpretation of it. But like, was this like a sound that always appealed to you? Like, was this always like the sound that you wanted to make as an artist? Like, this was an inspiration for you, or was this just kind of like a spur of the moment like idea that just came out of nowhere?
It's kind of a spur of the moment thing, but everyone is influenced by things, and it comes out in their sound. I mean, it just does. That's how it always works with artists. But you kind of put your spin on it, and then it ends up being yours. But there's influences that come from somewhere that make you excited to even do music, and you're like, oh man, I want to do stuff like this, and then you learn to develop your own style over time. But certainly there's influences coming through, even like you said, industrial stuff, goth stuff, metal stuff. It's all kind of blended together in one big soup.
And being that, as everybody knows, you drumming with Five Finger for so long, and going to a front man, pulling the Dave Grohl sort of route, but like does having like a background as the rhythm section in a rock band, did that at all maybe help you with your songwriting as a front man and a lyricist? Are you thinking like very rhythmically in a way?
I think so, probably just naturally. Even I've always tried to be pretty rhythmical with lyrically and melodically delivering vocals. It's just part of what I do. It's rhythm is in my soul. It has been since I was 6, when I started playing drums.
Yeah, famous saying too, your drummer sucks, your band sucks. So like
Well, I mean, it can really make or break a band, that's for sure.
yeah. And with psychosexual, having this image, I think it's very intriguing because it's not just a sonic experience. There is this whole character, there's a visual experience that goes on with it. Do you feel like within psychosexual you are portraying like a character who is completely different from who you personally are, or is this just maybe like an extension of who Jeremy Spencer is, like an alter ego that we haven't seen before?
It's probably more of an extension than anything. I mean, aside from the prosthetics and makeup, I've always been kind of like gravitating towards the darker side and the debauchery side and the fun side of things that you weren't supposed to do. So he's kind of like the ringleader of the debauchery. It's just an extension of myself, but you can get away with more because it's portrayed it's like a theatrical experience.
Do you feel that
But the
maybe
rules, you can push the envelope because you're playing a character.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny too because like whenever a musician plays a character, we've heard so many negative critiques from every artist. They're, oh, it's a gimmick, it's this. I'm like, no, it's just like, I mean, are you gonna call a play a gimmick? I mean, like a play musical. I think like you bring like a visual aspect to it, and you're gonna make people go beyond just simply listening to the music. I think like when live shows return, I'd imagine, and you bring Psychosexual live, it's gonna be like a whole theatrical experience, right?
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, it started early with me being a fan of Kiss and, growing up and Kiss, Devo. Then you'd see Ghost, Marilyn Manson, Rob Zombie, King Diamond. Uh, I just like theater. I like even Motley Crue. Like you would go see their concert in '89, and it was a huge spectacle, man. I miss that part of rock and roll. I miss over the top big experiences, and I think that needs to happen again. What we'll be able to do remains to be seen as far as what tour we're on, how much stage space we have, how much time we have to play, what the permits are, as far as if you could bring fire, but we have all kinds of different things we can do and tailor to each situation that we might be playing. So I'm excited to get going. It's just, we're kind of waiting like everyone else is, but we will be getting out there and we'll play every place we can play.
Yeah, you just reminded me of one of my favorite stories because I saw one band I love seeing live is the black metal band Watain, and they bring like real blood and real animals and stuff. But the second time I saw them, they were playing in New York City health rules even before COVID, like with restaurant rules and stuff. They're very very strict. They always have the health department up your ass grading you, and they played at a venue that also serves food, so they have to follow health requirements. And then the day after they played, I guess the health department came the next day, and they were like, "It smells like dead carcass in here. Like, what the fuck is this?" And then I think it made their grade drop. So, you
That's
gotta.
funny. In Death Punch, we played someplace in Atlanta, and we were in the upstairs room, and there was like this basement venue, and there was some band that brought dead, rotting animals in there, kind of like Mayhem used to do that shit. And I was like, "What the fuck? That's brutal." But I mean, they were committed to it, and I always, I can respect that. And like even watching that movie Lords of Chaos and watching the dude Val Kilmer's son play the dead and breathing the dead animals before they go on stage out of a paper bag for inspiration and shit. It's like they're into it.
You got to take inspiration where it comes. Everybody needs a hobby, right?
I love it. I think it's great, man. I always dug that band. I have a bunch of their vinyl and shit.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
I'm into it.
Like, I think also with the image, it could appeal to multiple audiences as well. Like, I think, people who are into, like, Rob Zombie will appreciate it, but people who like the King Diamond theatrical, I really think that Psychosexual is not catered towards a specific audience. I think that really anybody can get on board with it.
Well, that's kind of the thinking behind it, and we want to change every record. I don't want it to be the same style. That's not stimulating to me. Like, my favorite artists are Prince and Bowie, and every record they did was different. Like you would think, cool, we're going to get Purple Rain Part 2, and then he would just throw that away and do something that you totally didn't expect. I think that's cool, and you're like, well, what's coming next, man? And that's how this band can be too, since it's character and theatrical based. It can just be, let's do this trip on this record, and let's do this trip on this record, and just try different things.
Yeah, I mean, I never took you as an artist as a one-trick pony either. Like, I mean, even with Five Finger, I knew what was off of War is the Answer. I knew what was off of American Capitalist or the Wrong Side of Heaven series. Like, I feel like as an artist, you've always demonstrated. I don't consider anything you do a continuation of this. I think that everything you have demonstrated is a continuation of evolution.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to do that in order to stay stimulated and excited about doing it. I mean, I know that everyone's on a schedule to release a record and go do a tour, but we didn't want to just keep making the same sounding records. There are some bands that do that incredibly well, like AC/DC. They're consistent and those songs are very similar, but they all rule, But we always wanted to just kind of try some stuff that maybe we hadn't done before, along with the typical things that Death Punch fans grew to expect. So it was a little bit of a blend, but I always like to experiment and shake things up and try different things because it keeps it fresh, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you do the same thing, people will criticize you for being repetitive. If you experiment too much, people will criticize you for being directionless. So in the end, your gut instinct is always the right answer.
Yeah, and I just kind of look at it like somebody said, "What you think of me is none of my business," and that's kind of how I'm approaching things. I don't care. I make music that I like to listen to,
Yeah.
and that's what most bands do. You know, it's first and foremost you have to like it. If other people like it, that's a bonus. If they don't, you can't control that. But I think that there's something for everyone that are on our records. It's not all one style. So if you don't like something, doesn't mean you won't like something else that's on the record, or vice versa. So I just want to keep things fresh and eclectic and stimulating, whatever that may be.
Yeah, and with the going back to the visual aspect of Psychosexual, do you almost feel like with this album that you're gonna make, it's gonna follow like a narrative or a concept where almost like it's talking about this character and like it's gonna kind of like is it almost kind of like a story of this character in a way, or is
Yeah,
it?
somewhat. It's not a concept record, but it definitely is thematic, and a lot of this material is dark and fantasy, kind of like even songs that have to do with stalking and the creepy guy that's hiding under your bed that's going to get you. It's just like it's a horror movie. It's fun.
Yeah. And do you think that maybe in the future, and I'm probably asking this way too far in advance, but like, do you think that maybe in the future, like a psychosexual album, like conceptually, not in terms of sound, as we talked about before, but like it would almost kind of be like the sequel in a way, like Scream 2, Scream 3 kind of, or?
Could be. I do. I mean, we've been working nonstop since the first thing, and nobody even really knows this, but we've already finished 5 albums.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, we've got kind of a roadmap planned out for the next few years. I think people will be pleasantly surprised to see where this thing goes. It's definitely evolves. I just can't wait to release the first thing so we can get started.
Yeah.
But there's so much material because of the pandemic. All we did was go to work every day and write and record music, or at least 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So if we could have toured, maybe that would have broken it up and we wouldn't have as much material. But since we couldn't do that, it was like, let's just make music. So we did.
There's no excuse. There's no excuse. You have to have all the music there. You ain't gonna get away with delaying an album like Tool does now. You have plenty of time on your hands.
Well, and I don't like that anyway. I mean, I miss the days when Kiss would release 2 albums a year, because I mean, people just release singles now or an album every 2 years or something. And it's like people's attention spans, it's so fast. They want what's next. And even like in Death Punch, we'd release a record and then the week after they go, "We love it, man. When's the next one coming?" Like, shit, we just made the record, dude. Why don't you try making a record? It's not that easy.
Yeah, in fact, I was genuinely surprised too because like I remember following you in Five Finger. You released the double album in 2013, and then 2 years immediately got your six came out. I was like, damn, you had like an assembly line working for you. I always think that's great. Like obviously don't rush anything, don't take your time, and don't half-ass anything to meet consumer demands. But like I think it's admirable when you're able to create art on an assembly line kind of basis where like you're able to keep people wanting more also while fulfilling them.
Well, part of that was, business dealings and what had to happen for certain contract things to happen. So we have to do this in a certain time manner or under a time stamp. But we were also just busy. We created. That's what we love to do. So it was tour record until. For me, I was like, oh, okay, we might consider taking a break. That would be great for me, but it just wasn't meant to be. They weren't really down for the break. So I'm like, I got to step off, man. I got to get my body better. I got to get my mind right again. I'm not. It was just enough. I mean, almost 14 years of the same thing.
Yeah.
That'll wear you down. It doesn't matter how good it is. So it was a blessing. It was amazing, and I got to experience incredible things and see the world and meet great people and earn a decent living. So I'm pretty blessed. We sold a lot of records, and it's not very common these days. Like, we were one of the last bands to get in. Actually, people still bought the records, so we were kind of fortunate. After that, it was like Spotify right after. So it was, we got real lucky.
Yeah. And and I'm glad you are feeling better too. And like did have you always were you always a singer? Were you always like admiring to be a front man, or like, because when Jason Newsted had his injury, he picked up visual art, and like he found a whole new passion from that. So becoming the front man of Psychosexual, was this something that you've always wanted to do, or was it it started off as something to kind of like hold you over while you were recovering, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I was even, I had started writing songs and singing on them back in like 98 or 96 or something. So it's been a long time. I just started making records whenever I could. Like, coming home from tours, I would write music and record it just in my upstairs studio. I never knew that it would turn into a band, but I started missing the band scenario where it's like, I want to go out and have that instant exchange with an audience and have, and have it be more rock. So now it's like, that's the full mission. I can't stay out of the game,
Yeah.
But the drumming thing, I could probably play. I got my back fixed. I feel really good health wise. It's just, I've done so much of that. It's not that stimulating to me anymore. I want to accept this new challenge and just do other things, that's what life's about, experiencing a bunch of different things.
Yep. And it's never too late, and I think that's great. Because I do consider it almost kind of like, when people say, I'm older now, I'm going to stick with how it is, and, I have my destiny. I'm like, life is always going to change, so you're going to change with it. I really think that's cool. Like, what I'm hoping is, I think you're a great inspiring story, because, you were injured, and then, you had this new, for lack of better words, like epiphany, that were like you discovered something new about yourself. And I'm hoping that maybe with this whole pandemic and everybody's life being on hold, that maybe people will discover new things themselves too. I'm seeing a surge in side projects coming out of this pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's in one way it's been a blessing, because people can do stuff that they wouldn't have normally done, creatively, musically, perhaps. I mean, everyone's just kind of woodshedding and recording and writing, and that's great. I mean, just think of all the stuff that's going to come out after touring opens back up. Everyone will release their records, and it's going to be great, man. It's an exciting time for music after maybe not so much of an exciting time. These past 2 years have been pretty rough.
Yeah. Well, in New York City, the hardcore capital of the world, hardcore shows are coming back now. So they're going to do outdoor hardcore shows in like public parks now. So I can't wait.
Oh, yeah.
So like we have Madball doing like an outdoor show. We have Sheer Terror doing an outdoor show. It's going to be pretty epic. This is the time for New York City hardcore too. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'm hoping like we could get like a big Agnostic Front show in the middle of Times Square.
Oh, that would rule. Yeah.
And kind of and you also recently released your book, and congratulations on that as well. Like, did writing a book maybe have a similar art as writing music as well? Is there like a similar art? I because there's been artists like Max Cavalera wrote books, Corey Taylor wrote books. Like, did maybe that like there's a similar method and writing a story as versus writing music?
Well, since it's my life story, it was pretty easy to write. I just did it because I'd gotten out of rehab and needed a new place to put my energy. So I just started writing about my earliest memories of my life. And then it started turning into kind of entertaining stories, Some of it was sad, some of it was funny, some of it was disgusting. And then my management was like, this could actually maybe turn into something, So they ended up shopping it and getting a deal. And then I wrote the book, and then my dad edited it for me. And we whipped it into shape and put this thing out, and it ended up charting on the New York Times bestsellers list, which is, to me, that's hilarious, because I'm not an author. I just was writing my story. But it seemed to just, the band was popular at the time, and it lined up on a week where, Paul Stanley didn't release his book. I landed on the charts, It's like, yeah, I charted. I did it, So, but whatever. So that was kind of a fun little bonus. But the feedback from the book, it was real positive. Like people were like, "Hey, it's helped me with my struggles with addiction and outlook on sticking with music when it's tough and my band's not getting a break." And so that's positive to hear stuff like that when your life story can maybe help somebody else.
Yeah, and you've created art that has helped people astronomically. I think that's, I think without you realizing it, you more so in the music business. I think you're also in the business of helping people with music and with writing. I think you've created art that resonated with a lot of people. So
And that's cool because you never really think about it whenever you're doing it like that. Like, this is going to help somebody. You don't think of it like that. But whenever you get feedback, then somebody goes, "You have no idea what this means to me," and then you think about that, you're like, "That's cool, man." Because we looked up to artists when we were younger, and their stuff helped us too. It's just I didn't get to talk to them because there was no Instagram. But now you can reach out to artists and you can talk to them. It's just different.
there's some benefits to social media. You just got to look for it.
Yeah, it's mixed.
And having all these different creative mediums between songwriting and as well as acting in some aspects, as well as writing, is it maybe like a different mind frame depending on like what medium you're working with, or is there a usual method behind the madness that applies to all forms of creativity?
Well, it's just I like to do creative things. That's what makes me happy. So I guess I get the juice from that no matter what it is. And I just apply my all to whatever the situation is and whatever it requires. I mean, doing music's a little different than getting stabbed in a horror movie, but it's fun. It's equally as fun to me.
Not too much. Not too much. I'm sure there's plenty of things you could compare it to.
Well, certainly business-wise, it feels the same. But yeah, just creating. Period is what does it for me. Like I like achieving goals. That's like my drug of choice. I'll set a goal and I will try to do my best to go after it and achieve it. That's what I like most. That's the funnest thing in life to me.
Yeah. And I have two more questions for you. You ready for the most difficult question of the whole interview?
Sure.
All right. Going back to songwriting, how do you know when a song is done?
You know what? I don't get too wrapped up in that. I just, once it feels right inside, I'm done. I don't overthink it because you torture yourself that way. And to me, it's like, it's just a snapshot of that second or that moment in time. Then there's going to be something else that comes out and you write about. So I don't sit there and think, "Oh, we got to tinker with this forever. It's never perfect." That doesn't work for me. That's some artists are like that. I'm not like that at all.
Hey, if you're and the goal, I think your music, especially with the Psychosexual single, that's what it does. It captures a moment. So the longer you work on it, that you're not going to really maintain that creative energy that initially sparked it. You know what I mean? I'm sure you like to feel the same way when you finish a song as you do when you start it.
Yeah, the end result is the bottom line. It's going to eventually go before the jury. Some people are going to like it, some people aren't. So what? Just do you like it? Is it ready? Or you can use that as it can be better. So I'm not going to finish it yet, because all that is a defense mechanism and procrastination. So you don't have to go before the jury and get slaughtered. Who cares? Just if you like it, release it. You can't control what people think.
Definitely. Definitely. Trial by your peers. Being a musician, that's the best example of trial by your peers.
Yeah, for sure.
And the final question I wanted to ask you is for that creative energy to occur, do you almost like go out and look for inspiration? Like, do you have like a usual place you go to in order to let the ideas flow, or does inspiration strike when you like least expect it sometimes?
Sometimes, like it used to be, I'd just sit in my hot tub and relax, and then I'd get some idea, and I'd get out and come in and type it on the computer real quick. But now it's just whenever. I just kind of find things when I'm supposed to find them, and I'm like, that could be a cool title, or that could be something cool to write about. It just happens. So, there's really no set way.
Yeah, I'd imagine inspiration strikes at some of the most inconvenient times.
It does, man. And sometimes like you're laying in bed and you're like, crap, and you've got to get up and then get the voice recorder and document it in your phone so you don't forget.
Yeah.
But I guess that's a cool problem to have whenever when an idea is coming. You know, it's just it strikes when it strikes.
I'm proposing a new pro audio idea. Artists always tell me that they get inspiration in the shower. Like that's where they always get the ideas. So I'm thinking of inventing a shower slash recording studio, like waterproof compressors and waterproof synths and waterproof mixers. So anytime an artist gets an inspiration in the shower, they just go right to recording it.
Yeah, I bet you that. You never know, man. So some of the stuff that could come out of that might be pretty interesting.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for a great discussion. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote, like when we could be getting the new Psychosexual album, as well as the other four maybe, and also anything else that you would like to plug? Maybe a live stream performance of this to hold people over, or we'll be seeing you on the road quite a bit when this pandemic is eventually behind us, right?
Well, the official music video for "Devil from Hell" will be out next week, probably Friday, but it'll be out next week. And then the full-length album, we're moving the date, I think, to May 28th. So it'll be in May. It was the 14th, and now I think it's the 28th. So I'll announce it for sure. It'll be all over socials, but just look for the video for "Devil from Hell" next week.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. Everybody, Jeremy Spencer of Psychosexual. Check out the brand new single, Devil from Hell, if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.